He's God's own agent in creation. Through him, verse 3, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That's the way the book begins. But then we're also told that the Word gives us light and life. You know, some books you only read once. You have a trip, let's say, to L.A., and you pick up a whodunit in the bookshop in the airport, and by the time you get to L.A., you found out whodunit. And you decide this is not a book you're going to keep in your library, so you put it in the seat pocket in front of you, and the cleaners take it out, and you'll never read it again. In fact, it's even possible 6 months from now, when you make another busy trip to L.A., you'll buy the same flipping book and read it again, because you won't remember how it went. It's possible. But there are other books where you read them more than once, don't you? There are books you like to pore over, the quality of the English prose. It might even be a whodunit, but it's got the atmosphere exactly right, or it describes a part of the world where you live, and you enjoy thinking about it. You read it once for the plot, then you read it for the characterization, then you read it again for all the little touches and nuances. You get a real kick out of it. Now the question is, did John write his book as a throwaway tract to be read once, or is it the sort of book where he wanted it to be read again and again and again? I think you can show that he read it, he wrote it in such a way that he expected you to see new things from it as you keep rereading it. If you read verses 4 and 5 without ever having read the rest of the book, all you've read so far is verses 1, 2, and 3, how will you understand 4 and 5? Verse 3, through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. You're talking about creation. In him was life, and that life was the light of all people. That is, he had life in himself, and he gave life to all human beings. That was their light. There was darkness, and then there was light. The line shines in the darkness of nothingness, before he came along and created everything. In other words, you can understand verses 4 and 5 entirely with respect to verses 3 and 4. And I suspect if you were reading it through the first time, that's the way you'd understand it. And then you read 6. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. And you start seeing how light has now got overtones, not of physical light and the nothingness that existed before the creation. Now light has some sort of overtone of revelation or truth or something, light that is revealed. And the same sort of moral or revelatory overtone is clearer and clearer as the book goes on. Thus we read, for example, a little farther on in the book, that men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. People choose the darkness because they're afraid to come to the light. 3:20, all those who do evil hate the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. Those who live by the truth come into the light. You see, in this kind of context, light is not the light of creation. It's the light of revelation. It's the light of truth. And now you go back and reread verses 4 and 5 in the light of all of this. By the time you get to John chapter 8, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. In him was life. That life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness of moral corruption and rebellion, and the darkness has not overcome it. Now you have another set of overtones, do you see? And you ask, which is true? Jesus as the agent of physical light and life and creation, or Jesus as the one who brings revelation and transformation and overcoming moral darkness? And the answer, of course, is yes. Because you're supposed to read it both ways. It's the way the book has been written. You read it and reread it and see more and more connections.